Hey, what's up guys? My name is Don. I'm a second year general surgery resident, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, shoes. As I discussed in my previous video, I think it is extremely important to have comfortable shoes to wear at the hospital because typically doctors and residents work a lot of hours, stand on their feet a lot, especially in surgery where we're going to be in the OR, where we're going to be rounding. When there's a lot of standing around at the bedside, it's really important to keep your feet comfortable to do those long hours. I have a particular interest and a lot to say about this subject, because I love shoes. And in particular, I like sneakers, especially Nike and Flyknit, which is, I know, very stereotypical of those Asian dudes and hype beasts who like these kinds of shoes. But it's funny because I come to realize that although these shoes are very comfortable to wear on the daily, at work, they are not actually the best shoes. So today we're going to be going over a few of my recommendations in what to look for in a shoe and what I consider comfort, and as well a few of recommendations and popular suggestions that you'll see in the hospital for surgeons and doctors in the clinic. So when I pick a shoe to wear at the hospital, there's basically three things that I'm looking for. Number one is comfort, which I'll break down even more into detail. Number two is that they protect your feet from bodily fluids. So in the OR or at the bedside, there's a lot of bodily fluids, especially in surgery, and you don't want it to seep through down to your socks or your feet, but also you want the shoe to be easy to clean. And the last thing is looks. Just because it's functional doesn't mean I don't care what it looks like. I still want it to have some sort of swag. Even if our scrubs are really kind of washed out and gross, I still think that there's some shoes that just work better with the scrubs and go better with the entire look. The first thing is comfort, and to break that down even more, I think there's three components to comfort. One is the upper of the shoe, the second one is the cushioning, and the third one is the footbed or the insole, how your foot actually sits on the footbed of the shoe. So talking about the upper of the shoe is obviously when you have like something like running shoes, they're made of something that's very breathable, very light, and your feet don't sweat in it during the day, obviously, because they're made to be active. But obviously one of the cons of that is that they can have a lot of holes and fluids can get in there, and they're just tough to clean if anything goes in here. So I love these Flyknits because they're so comfortable at the top here, but I would never really wear these at the hospital because if I got blood on these, first of all, I would cry because I love these shoes, but also they're tough to clean and my feet would be kind of wet. But as you see in these other models as well, the Flyknit can really make it feel like a sock and really kind of compress around your foot and make it feel really, really good, which I think is a huge part of why Flyknits are comfortable. But again, it's not something that I would recommend. And in general, running shoes have that problem for the operating room. So then you have all the uppers that are made of leather, just like these Crocs here. So obviously if fluids get onto here, they'll just leak right off, and they're very easy to clean, especially with those antimicrobial wipes that they have in the hospital, and these stay very clean. It's crazy to me that some people actually buy the Crocs with holes for the hospital. You will see surgeons sometimes with the Crocs with the little holes, and yes, things definitely seep through and they have their feet wet sometimes after the operating room with blood. It's really gross. I don't know why people do that. Just buy a pair like this. But obviously I get it. It's closed off, it's rubber, and so it actually does get pretty hot, which is my main con about these Crocs. And then you have uppers made of leather, which I think is a nice in-between in terms of still looking professional, relatively easy to clean, and it keeps your foot safe and away from all these liquids. So moving on to cushioning, which I think in most people's minds is a huge aspect of comfort. However, I think that cushioning isn't actually that important when you're just strolling around in the hospital and you're not actually running. So for example, these are the Nike Epic React with this beautiful cushioning. It feels like you're walking on a cloud. But the main con I find about this kind of cushioning is that when you're standing around, it's not a solid base for your feet to kind of anchor themselves, and they're always kind of in that cushion, in which case it's kind of hard on your ankles a little bit. And you can try it yourself. If you go to the operating room with a pair of these, it's actually not that comfortable. And so these are my personal recommendations, but you'll find that surgeons don't wear running shoes really. They wear something with a harder base, just like Birkenstocks. So as you can see with Birkenstocks here, they really are quite flat. They have that cork footbed, and there's no real cushioning. When you walk on these, if you run on these are not that comfortable. But when you're standing around, your foot feels really, really solid in that because there's not wobbling around on the cushioning. One of the last elements about that cushioning is that the shape of the heel actually matters a bit in the comfort too. So as you saw in the Birks, these are quite flat. There's no heel on it, but you'll find that some clogs for surgeons actually have a built-in heel, which makes them a bit more comfortable because you're a little bit kind of leaning forward and your heel's just a little bit more in an ergonomic position. And I found that true actually with dress shoes. So these shoes I wore in clinic all the time. And you notice here that they have a heel. And honestly, these were so comfortable that in my first surgical rotations, when I didn't have any specific shoes yet, I was wearing these to the operating room because they were so comfortable. And actually, these are my favorite dress shoes because they're so light. I think they're Bostonian Featherlight. They're incredibly light and so comfortable that I was actually wearing these to the operating room, which is insane. And I was wearing to all the clinics during all my med school rotations. So I even bought a second pair in black, of the exact same pair. And these really were incredible, I find. And actually this brings me to my last point of what I think makes a shoe comfortable is the footbed. So these shoes were quite comfortable just by themselves with that heel, with how light they are. But I found that if you get insoles that are adapting to your footbed or custom made, these can add dramatically to the level of comfort. So I actually have some kind of cork insoles in here that I found online, and it's a nice company that I actually bought another pair for my running shoes. So custom orthotics can be really expensive. You go, you get an appointment, they measure kind of the foot, and it's really custom made to your foot so that your foot is completely balanced when you're wearing any shoe. I didn't go to that. I personally don't have any experience with that, but I found that these are really good and actually much cheaper. So these were, I think, $50, and it's a company called Sole. Basically, you buy your size and you just wear them for like a week and they mold to your foot, and then it becomes extremely comfortable, especially because they have this little arch here for extra support, which I think is the main factor in comfort. And I'm believing these so much that inside my running shoes, I have a pair of them as well. And again, these are kind of just cheap alternatives to custom orthotics, and they also have different ones based on lifestyle in terms of dress shoes or running shoes or a bit more cushioning or something like that. And of course, speaking of footbed, that's the main reason why Birkenstocks are so comfortable, is because their footbed is made of cork and it really just molds with your foot. The more you wear them, the more comfy they get, and they become these like nice dark pattern based on your footbed. And that's basically the main reason why Birks are so comfortable. So honestly, at this point, I wear Birkenstocks like 90% of the time I'm awake. When I go outside, I wear these ones here, the sandals. When I'm at work, I wear these ones right here. And when I'm at home, I wear these kind of slipper looking ones. I'm obviously not sponsored by Birkenstocks, but if they wanted to, hit your boy up. I didn't get the hype at first for Birkenstocks, but I got my first pair, and honestly, your feet just kind of get addicted to it. So the first pair I got were actually these EVA ones. So these are the plastic ones. They're much lighter. There's no cork. They kind of do the same thing in terms of molding to your foot and being comfortable. But all in all, I would say just put the money into the real kind of cork ones because they're just more durable and they're a bit more heavy duty, but these ones are waterproof in case you need those. These are just a slightly different experience, but generally if you kind of want to see what it feels like, this is also a cheap way to get into them. So to recap, the reason why these ones are my main shoe right now at the hospital is because the footbed is incredibly comfortable. It doesn't have significant cushioning, which means that I can stand for a long time without my ankle being tired. And they have an upper that is easy to clean and breathable because it is leather and not complete plastic over it. And of course, these are so cool in my opinion. They look really good, and in scrub especially, the kind of all black look and the clog look. I mean, as much as clogs can look good, I think these are the best looking ones. Some of the more popular ones are these Birkenstocks Bostons that have the upper made of leather, but the heel is not covered, which that can also be a hazard in terms of slipping or the shoe falling off, but most people in the hospital actually, I think, have the one like this with the leather. I'll also show pictures of the professional line of Birkenstock that have the upper that's made of plastic that are easier to clean. The main complaint again is that those do get hot a little bit more than the leather ones, but they're a bit more heavy duty and slip resistant. Another popular brand that I don't have any experience with, but again checks all those boxes, is Calzuro. And they have that heel design, they have the little ribbed footbed to make it comfortable, and those are very popular too, but I can't say for myself where they rank. There's the kind of expensive premium ones that you might see called Danskos, I think it's Danskos, D-A-N-S-K-O. Those are extremely popular too because they check all those boxes, and there's a wide selection of colors, designs, patterns, and they're extremely durable from what people tell me. My main review regarding Crocs is that they're okay, they're cheap, they work, and it's pretty popular, but I found them to be a bit too hot. And I don't have particularly sweaty or hot feet, but so if you're sensitive to that, you might have a problem, especially if you're not gonna have the ones with vents. And again, one of the main problems is that they do have a bit of cushioning, which is comfortable to walk around in, and it's kind of nice, and they have a little ribbed footbed, but in the long run, I find something a bit more solid to be just a bit more comfortable for long hours when you're walking around. And so a quick word about compression socks, because I know those go with footwear. Generally, people would recommend those. My personal experience is that I got kind of some generic ones on Amazon. I didn't find that they made that much of a difference. I don't know if it's because I had to get some custom made, or to me, maybe the footwear choice is much more important than the actual compression sock in terms of comfort of my feet. But I do encourage you to try them out and see if that helps you delay fatigue or stand for longer hours in the operating room, for example. A lot of people swear by them, but I can't say that I'm one of them. On top of that, a little discomfort is that the small hairs on my leg, I don't have a lot of hairs, but the small hairs I have on my leg when they were in the compression sock were just being pulled a tiny bit. And so during the day, it'd be just a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit pinching. And again, because there was not big of a difference in terms of my fatigue at the end of the day, I just kind of phase them out, and I rely on just regular socks or sometimes no socks with the shoes that I wear. So that's it for today. I hope that this was interesting. I tried to really just talk about shoes that I have experience with. Obviously, if you're looking for ladies footwear for doctors and kind of a more formal clinic wear, I have no experience with that, and that's kind of a more complicated subject because looks are a bit more important perhaps. But I hope that those of you going on a surgical rotation can take something out of this, because again, this can be a huge factor in your liking your rotation, because you just don't want to be too tired at the end of the day, especially if you're going to be mentally on for 12-14 hours. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video.